Alright, so now I want to add a bit of color to this menu block. Give it a background color. So what we might actually do to make it a bit more interesting is I'm going to give this menu a gradient using CSS3. Now be aware when you decide to use CSS3 or not that not all browsers support it. Modern browsers support it, but some of the older browsers still don't. So you just need to be aware of that and just make your own judgment call depending on what your audience is most likely to have, how up to date their browsers are likely to be. Your site will still work if a person who doesn't have CSS3 looks at it, but instead of seeing a gradient, for example, they'll just see a flat color. So you just need to make a call on that. So I'm going to enable CSS3. You have to enable CSS3 here before you're able to use it in your theme, and we just have this in there as a precaution just to make sure that you do make a considered choice when you decide if you're going to use CSS3 and how much of it you're going to use. So just save that. And now when we go into the CSS3 design effects settings for your main menu block, you'll now have the ability to activate these individual effects on the block. So we want to enable the CSS3 gradient. So I'm going to save that to apply that to the themes settings, into what I'm allowed to do and what I'm not. And now you can see that there's already a simple gradient has been applied here, just a light colored gradient. I'll just show you that on the front end so you can see it a little clearer. Okay, so you can see that gradient there, but because I've got dark colors on this header here, I want to have dark colors on the menu so it matches a little better. So just going to go with a charcoal color here, and then a slightly lighter color for the other half of the gradient. We'll try that, see how it looks. I want to make that look a little rounder, so I'm just going to make the two colors a little bit more different from one another. Just going to make this a little brighter. Okay, that's more like it. And you can see that the white background color of this menu here is still, it's overlaying the gradient. So to overcome that effect, I'm just going to set the background color for the top menu, the top level menu items to be none, so that'll just be transparent. And then because it's going to be on a black background, we want a light colored font. Okay, now that's starting to look quite nice. And you'll notice that the drop down arrow is still black there, so we also want to change that drop down arrow to be a light color so that it'll show up on the dark background. I'll update that to show you in the front end. Okay, so it's starting to look quite nice. Now I think the next thing that I would like to do with this theme is change the background color so that we have a bit more of a contrast between what's content, what the site is, and what it's not. So opening up the general options and backgrounds, just going to set this to be a little darker than the interior, but still lighter than the border that we set earlier. Okay, that looks quite nice. And you'll notice that it doesn't matter how high each one of these posts are. They arrange themselves into a nice layout, no matter what you have in each one of these posts. That's due to a script that we use called jQuery Masonry. So, as the name suggests with the masonry, it will piece together each one of your posts so that you don't have to stress about having your titles the same height. You know, this one's 3 lines high and this one's 1 line high. You don't have to worry too much about the height of each one of your individual posts. No matter what happens, you're going to get a nice arrangement and a nice layout. So that makes it a lot easier to have multiple column layouts. So the next thing that we'll have a look at is just putting a little bit of a border around each of these posts so that we can just frame them up a bit and give them a bit more definition, help people to just visually and intuitively separate each post from the other. So back to the content area settings, going into post area and post borders. Just going to set that to 1 pixel wide. So now you can see we have a nice little border around here. Just show you that again in the front end. And then we might also try a CSS3 drop shadow. We'll see how that looks. So the first thing that we have to do is enable the drop shadow. That looks pretty good, but it's a little dark. Just update so we can have a look. It's nice, but it is a little bit dark, so I'm just going to fade that off a little by choosing a lighter color. So you can see now that this is enabled, you have access to all of the settings for the shadow. So we'll just switch that up to a different color. Something a little bit more subtle. And that's much nicer. Alright. And because I like where this has progressed to, I'm going to, again, generate some new theme defaults. Okay, so that is probably just about enough for just a simple tutorial, but I will just quickly show you how to tidy up these menu colors here. So generally speaking, to get a nice effect with the menu, you want each color to be just slightly different from the color before it. So a good way to do that is to start by grabbing a copy of the code that you have, the color code that you've used for your main background. Paste it in to the next color up in the line. Again, you can check out the documentation for more information on which settings to use for which part of the menu. Now, because I've entered this color code in here, if I open it up again, I'll get a comparison. So this is the new color that I'm playing with here, and this is the color that I did have filled in. So I can get a comparison and just see that it's just a little bit lighter. I'm going to copy that code now, because I'm then also going to paste it into the next level. I'll show you why, just a second, sorry. Okay, so now I have this rollover color that's this dark charcoal, and I also want this drop down to be the same color. So you saw that I copied that color code from here from the hover color for the top level. So I also want that to be the first drop down color. And then again, I can use the same technique with hovers on the drop down level. Just going to slide that up and make it a little bit lighter. Copy that code, paste it into the first entry on the next level, and then do the same thing again, and just make that a little lighter again. Okay, and we'll just show you the effect. Okay, so now you can see you've got nice background colors here. Now obviously the text is still not the right color, so we'll change that. And generally speaking, you can get away with using much the same text color on each level. If you're just using those slightly different shades on the background, you can usually get away with having pretty close colors on the text. So we'll see if it needs any fine tuning. That's pretty clear, so I think that's fine as it is. And then now that we've got dark colors on the drop downs and the flyouts, we also want to change the arrows so that they're all light colored. So we have that nice contrast. Change that to light and change that to light. Very good. Now when you're going through the process of creating a completely custom theme, you'll also want to go through and choose new link colors and, you know, just change the link hover colors up as well. But we're just doing this as a short tutorial, so I won't go over that right now. Just update the theme and generate new defaults. There we go. And there we have a nice, simple, clean, 2-column blogging theme.